Thanks for being with us. We're going to begin this morning with the deadly string of storms and tornadoes that killed at least 28 people over the weekend. In Colorado, several tornadoes like this one we're showing you right now, which was caught on tape, touched down just east of Denver, destroying at least 10 buildings and damaging nearly 20 homes.
In Kentucky, at least 18 people were killed. Many others were injured. The storms there also spawned deadly tornadoes. The National Guard is now on the scene helping with the cleanup there. And in Missouri, the powerful storms killed at least 7 people, with thousands of buildings either damaged or destroyed. A majority of those deaths were in the St. Louis area, which is now bracing for even more severe weather throughout the week. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is standing by with the forecast. First, though, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster has the latest from St. Louis.
Good morning. And yes, so much devastation across the region. Here in St. Louis, you see the impact of those 150-mile-an-hour winds from that EF3 tornado. Just look behind me at what it did to this one home. You see the complete siding torn off, debris scattered throughout the entire front lawn here. These are scenes that you're seeing not just block by block here, but really neighborhood by neighborhood. This was a tornado that the National Weather Service said overnight was on the ground for 26 miles, even extending into Illinois. The mayor overnight also saying that she thinks there's about $1 billion of damage here. So over the weekend, we saw a race to clean up, to move all the debris out of the streets, to start to restore power for many of these people. But this is a system that you saw impacting the entire region. The same system going into Kentucky, taking the lives of 19 people there. You hear the same stories of devastation, communities completely torn apart. Now, the issue here, especially here in St. Louis, is that we're expecting more severe weather later today. It's not raining yet, but it will be raining later this morning. And then this afternoon, you have forecasters saying there'll be another round of severe weather, another threat of potential tornadoes. 31 million Americans across the country will be under some severe weather threat today. So you have compounding impacts for folks here who, again, want to focus on the cleanup, want to focus on what's next and moving forward, but dealing with more threats for the time being. Back to you.
All right, Shaq, thank you.
Well, let's get an update now on the possibility of more severe weather on the way with your Morning News Now forecast.
Michelle Grossman is tracking everything for us. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, unfortunately, after a heartbreaking weekend, we are looking at the chance for more storms, not only today, also tomorrow, and then into Wednesday. So it's going to be another busy start to the work week. Right now, we are tracking some storms. It's pretty quiet right now. We're going to see them igniting later on this afternoon, especially into the evening hours once that daytime heating gets going. But we can still see lightning. We're hearing thunder, looking at heavy rain, and these are all possibilities as we go throughout this Monday. We're going to add in the addition of some strong storms, strong tornadoes once again. 31 million people at risk, you can see throughout the central and southern plains into portions of the Ozarks, where you see the red and the orange, especially. That's where we could see some very strong storms. So places like Kansas City, Springfield, Oklahoma City, Fayetteville, Ardmore, we are looking at the chance for winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. They will cause damage, large hail, and also the chance of those large tornadoes, EF2 or greater, especially where you're looking at that hatched area. So Joplin, Tulsa, Lawton, those are places where you need to be weather aware today once again, unfortunately. Tomorrow, 26 million still impacted by the threat of severe storms, now moving into portions of the Tennessee Valley, the mid-Mississippi Valley, into the Ohio Valley. So lots of yellow shading there, orange shading. That's indicating where we could see those stronger storms. Again, everything's on the table. We could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some hail once again. This is all likely, and also the chance of a few tornadoes that could be on the strong side. Nashville, Huntsville, Tupelo, Memphis could see some of those strong storms tomorrow. Lots of rainfall too, so that will lead to the chance of flooding, flash flooding. It's already so saturated from the weekend storm, so anything on top of that could cause that, in addition to the really heavy downpours. So we are talking anywhere from 1, 2, 3 greater inches of some rainfall. Where you see those darker colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, could see the heavy rainfall. We're going to be dry today in the Northeast. That rain moves into the forecast by Wednesday. This is what it looks like for today. Of course, the big story being the severe weather in the central and southern plains to the Ozarks. On the northern fringe of this, it's going to be cooler. So we're going to see the chance for some rain. We're not looking at the chance of severe storms into the northern plains, but some heavy rain in spots. Then to the south, it's sort of a temperature divide. We're looking at steamy conditions. This is aiding in the chance of some of these storms. We're looking at the chance of record-breaking temperatures as well in southern Texas, the panhandle of Florida, along the Gulf Coast states, temperatures into the 80s and 90s. And this is why there's that jet stream. It's dipped so far to the south and the southwest and then sort of lifted up to parts of the Tennessee Valley, even into the Ohio Valley, really. So temperatures into the 90s in San Antonio. That's about 11 degrees above what is typical for this time of year, but it's really steamy too. We're kind of pulling that moisture off the Gulf, so the heat and also the moisture helping to kind of helping these storms later on this afternoon. This is what we're going to watch very closely. Memphis, New Orleans, Atlanta, temperatures into the upper 80s, well above normal for this time of year. Jacksonville, 98 degrees. That is 12 degrees above normal. So we're getting into record territory in some of these spots. The heat stays with us tomorrow, again, aiding in some of these storms. So temperatures into the 90s in Houston, 11 degrees above average, 91 degrees in Jackson, and we're looking at Savannah, 94 degrees. Mild temperatures into the northern part of the nation by Wednesday, so we're a little bit cooler this morning, tomorrow, but by midweek, we're going to raise those temperatures a bit. And then we're looking at temperatures in Charleston, West Virginia, into the 70s by Wednesday, and temperatures in Charlotte in the 80s by Wednesday. So, guys, this is going to be really busy. You need to be weather aware if you're living in those spots. Could see the storms today, and we're going to keep watching them on Tuesday and Wednesday as well. Back to you.
All right, Michelle, thank you very much.
The FBI has identified the man that investigators believe is responsible for a car bombing at a California fertility clinic over the weekend. The attack happened in the typically quiet desert community of Palm Springs. Investigators now think they know why the suspect did it, calling it an intentional act of terrorism. That man was killed while 4 others were injured. Now, for the first time, we're hearing from the father of the suspect. NBC News correspondent Jay Gray is live at the scene in Palm Springs with the very latest. Jay, good morning.
Hey there, good morning to you, Joe. And you can see still an active investigation going on, not only here, but about an hour away in 29 Palms as well at the suspect's home. The FBI saying that over the last couple of days, as you talk about, they have gathered evidence that leaves no doubt this was a terror attack.
2 days later,
like a war zone. I mean, everything's blown out.
debris and damage stretches for miles.
This is probably the largest bombing scene that we've had in Southern California.
The FBI now saying this man, 25-year-old Guy Bartkus, is responsible for the car bomb attack at this Palm Springs fertility clinic. Investigators believe Bartkus died in what they describe as an intentional act of terror, pointing to writings, audio recordings, and social media posts outlining what they call antinatalism views, a philosophy that argues having children is unethical because the unborn can't consent to a life that will include suffering.
Never known to believe anything like that before, no.
His father, in an interview with our Palm Springs NBC affiliate, says he was shocked to learn his son was a suspect, acknowledging the two have been estranged for years.
I always thought we might have a chance of getting back together. Haven't seen him in 12 years, and now I'll never see him again.
Federal agents, including a bomb team, searching his home over the weekend. They say Bartkus was not on their radar before the attack, but are quick to point out, despite the magnitude of the blast,
We were able to save all of the embryos at this facility. Good guys 1, bad guys 0.
the clinic confirming there was no damage to the lab where eggs, embryos, and reproductive materials are stored.
Clearly, they won't be working out of the building here, but Joe, I can tell you that the staff at the clinic says they will be treating patients and fully operational later this morning, not letting the attack stop their work. They'll be working from a remote facility.
All right, Jay Gray. Jay, thank you so much. For more now, let's bring in retired FBI Special Agent Rob D'Amico. Rob, good to have you with us. So in that piece, we heard the FBI call this the largest bombing scene they've had in Southern California. That's saying something. I mean, when you look at the scene, what does that tell you about the device used, and does it tell you anything about the suspect?
Well, it brings me back to my time in Iraq and Afghanistan, where those were going off a lot. And having been around them, you understand that a city that's not used to that, having that happen really changes things and how they see it. I mean, they just don't understand how big a device like that, when it goes off, what it does, and the noise. And as you see, windows for hundreds of feet getting blown out. But I think the big thing now is they're looking at how did he make the device? What was he using where did he make it. I don't know if they figured out he made it in the house, or, you know, a lot of times they use storage lockers and such, because there are some probably dangerous materials out there that they want to get a hold of, but they also want to understand where he got the information, how to make it. He was involved in, I don't want to say an arson case, but he did something that burned the house down. He was constantly making smoke bombs and playing with rockets. So he had an understanding of the chemical reactions needed for an explosion, but they're going to have to see how that went from a hobby into now an attack.
What about this distinction of an act of terrorism? Rob, can you explain how something like that ends up being labeled in that way, why it's important, and then what that means they're now looking for in their assessment of this attack?
Yeah, you have to go to the definition is an act of violence or a threat of act of violence to coerce or change public or government's opinions or the way they do things. So if he had a view that this whole thing that I had never heard of and had to start reading about as soon as this happened, that he didn't want babies to be born without their consent, which obviously is tough. So he's doing something, targeting a clinic where they actually help with that. So he's trying to, again, either bring awareness to his side of the argument or his side of things, or he's trying to prevent those embryos from being stored properly and surviving, or he's trying to coerce people from not doing this. So that's terrorism in general.
Rob, you're like many of us. This is the first time many people are hearing about this concept of antinatalism, is what it's called. You said you've been doing some reading on it. Do we have a sense of how widespread these views are here in America, and what the warning signs could be for law enforcement to just make sure we don't see any copycat attacks?
Yeah, when I started reading about it, it is a smaller, group out there. I don't know how big it is. The FBI is obviously going to be more aware of it now. They might not have even been tracking it as a group. Now that it's happened, it also may encourage others to maybe take events like this or something. But you always have to, weigh freedom of speech to, are they actually planning something violent? And they're going to have to go and look at, was he coerced into it? Was his dad said he wasn't a leader, he was a follower. So in fact, was someone in this group encouraging it, pushing them towards it, giving them material or something like that? So all that's going to come out in the investigation. But I guarantee the federal agencies are now going to be monitoring these groups. Again, you don't want to infringe on freedom of speech, but you want to make sure that they're not planning something like this in the future.
No doubt. All right, Rob D'Amico, good to have you with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, just months after leaving the White House, former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, which has spread to his bones. That is according to his personal office. Now, Mr. Biden and his family are said to be reviewing treatment options with his doctors. The 82-year-old is receiving support from around the country, including in Washington, where President Trump is wishing his predecessor a fast and successful recovery. NBC News medical reporter Erica Edwards has more.
Prayers pouring in for former President Biden after his personal office revealed that he has an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Mr. Biden's office said the diagnosis came Friday after he experienced what they're calling increasing urinary symptoms, and that the cancer has spread to his bones.
Once the cancer has spread to the bones, it's no longer curable, but it's very treatable and very controllable.
According to the Biden team, his cancer is hormone sensitive.
The patient would feel better, have better scans.
It's unclear where the former president will be treated or what kind of therapy he may get. Mr. Biden and his family are meeting with doctors and considering multiple treatment options, according to a source familiar with their thinking. President Trump posting that he and the First Lady are saddened to hear about his diagnosis and that they wish the former president a fast and successful recovery. And former Vice President Kamala Harris posting that Mr. Biden is in her prayers. The American Cancer Society predicts more than 313,000 men in the U.S. will be diagnosed with prostate cancer this year. Erica Edwards, NBC News.
NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joins us now to talk more about Mr. Biden's diagnosis. Dr. Patel, great to have you with us. Good morning. So as we've been talking about, the doctors classified Mr. Biden's cancer as Group 5 with a Gleason score of 9. I mean, walk us through, what exactly does that mean? How serious a diagnosis is that?
Yeah, Savannah, Joe, think of the Gleason score as one of the mechanisms to try to stage the cancer, how serious the cancer is. So a Gleason score is assigned anywhere from 6 to 10. The score 9 indicates that it's higher. The higher it is, the more kind of differentiated and kind of aggressive the cells look under a microscope. That's the way to think of the score. Then that correlates to a stage or a type of grade, grade 5. 5 is the highest. That also indicates that this is likely to spread, as we know, to the bone. We don't know which bone exactly, so we are still missing some details, Savannah, but it does tell us this is one of the more advanced and aggressive forms of the disease.
So with that in mind, knowing it's aggressive, but also knowing it's treatable, what are some of the former president's treatment options?
Yeah, so this is why he's getting many opinions, because there's a key factor here that was mentioned, hormone sensitivity. That's a good prognosis. That means that prostate cancer grows with influence of testosterone, the male hormone. And so you have to counter that. You do something called androgen deprivation therapy. And then so we know that he'll receive treatment that does exactly that, Joe. It reduces kind of the effect of the testosterone on the prostate. In addition to that, depending on just where that bone metastasis was and kind of the other treatment factors, you might see him also potentially get radiation therapy. There could be some minimally invasive surgery involved just to relieve potentially some symptoms. And there might be some other additional treatments. Treatments like this can last many, many months. I've seen patients have anywhere from 12 to 24 months of treatment.
Now, we know, Dr. Patel, that you're not treating the former president, but just given all the information that we have right now about his diagnosis and the information that you just shared about how he may be treated, what is the prognosis for a typical 82-year-old man?
Yeah, so, you know, the president is unlike any typical 82-year-old man, but he also is one of the more healthy 82-year-old men. We know that from the president's past physicals that they've made public, that he's in pretty good cardiovascular health and he's pretty active. This all helps for a better prognosis. But to be clear, this is still an aggressive form of cancer therapy, and the survival rate ranges at about 10 years. It can range as high as 25% all the way to 50%. I'll be honest, Savannah, in my experience, what ends up becoming problematic, not exactly the cancer, but other complications. As you get older at this age, in the next 10 years, you see other problems that could happen. So we're just going to have to keep a very vigilant watch. But here's the good news. While aggressive, there are treatment options, and the president is going to have a lot of options and solutions in front of him.
Let's talk big picture here. We know the American Cancer Society says about 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's common in older men. So just what are some of the signs and symptoms that men should be aware of when it comes to this?
Yeah, we're going to show some of these symptoms on screen, and I want to just stress that I have seen symptoms of all kinds. We know that the president came in and had actually some early symptoms of just some difficulty urinating. That can be some of the early warning signs. Just even having some problems with erections, trouble getting your urine started, even blood in the urine or semen can be one of the early stage signs. And then we also have advanced stage prostate cancer symptoms. And we know, of course, that the president has advanced stage prostate cancer, but we can see, again, some of that leaking of the urine. We can also see some back pain, bone pain, same thing with erectile dysfunction, and just in general feeling tired or losing weight.
Dr. Kavita Patel, really important information there. Thank you for walking us through this morning.
Thank you.
Well, a tragic accident on the East River at one of New York's most iconic locations is raising serious questions this morning. A Mexican Navy training ship here in New York on a goodwill tour lost power, according to Mexican officials, and then crashed right into the deck of the Brooklyn Bridge.
2 members of the crew were killed. Nearly 24 others were injured. The whole thing unfolded in front of stunned onlookers who documented the crash from multiple angles on Saturday night.
NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is live in Manhattan's Seaport District with the latest on this one for us. Sam, good morning. Let's start with Saturday night. What do officials believe went wrong? What do we know at this point?
Sure. So as people were watching this, Savannah and Joe, sort of happen in slow motion, the word you used was surreal. This ship appearing to come right up against the Brooklyn Bridge. Many of us were obviously thinking they didn't realistically think the ship would fit underneath the bridge, right? Those masts go up to 160 feet tall. The underside of the bridge, I should say, is about 120 feet. The reality was, as you suggested, according to New York City emergency management officials, the power was lost. The steering no longer functioned, and so this ship that was supposed to be going out toward the ocean, toward a goodwill tour. The next stop was going to be Iceland. Instead, caught the currents and was going in the opposite direction toward the Brooklyn Bridge. Here's how the New York City Special Ops Chief described just the sequence of events on Saturday night. Take a listen.
The ship was departing from Pier 17, where it was heading out to sea. The pilot, the captain that was maneuvering the ship, lost, I guess, power of the ship and the current. Mechanical function caused the ship to go right into the pillar of the bridge.
Now, Savannah, Joe, I want to draw your attention to a statement now from the U.S. Coast Guard, because many folks might be wondering, in a situation like this, aren't there tug escorts that are supposed to redirect the vessel should something go wrong? The answer to that is yes. The U.S. Coast Guard confirming that there is supposed to be a tug escort for any foreign ship, depending upon the vessel. And there was one with the Mexican training vessel on Saturday night. So then the question becomes, as you look at this, our response included launching a crew from Station New York, establishing a temporary safety zone, coordinating with NYPD, FDNY, and New York City DOT. They're saying we did our part. What happened with the tug escort that was on scene? Why wouldn't it have had some sort of a role in redirecting the ship? Almost certainly that's going to be part of the NTSB investigation. They're leading the investigation. The Coast Guard is also participating. The NTSB, according to Senator Chuck Schumer, was on scene as of yesterday, already beginning their work into what happened.
Sam, we want to ask you about the victims. We know 2 Mexican Navy cadets were killed in this tragedy. Several others were injured. What are we learning about those who lost their lives and also those who were injured?
Yeah. So the Mexican Navy provided an update Saturday night, Joe, and they've given us bits and pieces since then. But the main brushstrokes at this point are the 2 fatalities from Saturday night. They said total injured 22. I believe that does include the fatalities because they followed that up by saying that 11 of the injuries were critical and 9 people were in stable condition. That gets you to 20. And then, of course, the 2 cadets who died as well. That's the big picture right now. What is kind of shocking in all of this is that perhaps it wasn't worse. If you're going to look for a silver lining, there were 277 people on board of that ship. And if you see the video leading into this, like honestly, just hours before it happened, there's people covering every part of every mast. Just a ton of crew members that were obviously put into the fray there, into the danger. And so the reality right now, 2 people dead, 11 others in critical condition, but it could have been even worse.
Sam, what about the bridge itself? I mean, the Brooklyn Bridge is historic. It's vital to New York. There were cars passing across it right as this happened. Are there any signs of structural damage there?
You know what? About a century and a half old, and the Brooklyn Bridge, that thing is a tank. Senator Schumer said that he spoke with New York City DOT. Structurally, it's fine, no damage. I'm actually, from my vantage point right now, looking in the other direction, seeing traffic flowing back and forth over the Brooklyn Bridge. It is okay, fairly miraculous. Modern engineering and technology, or at least from a long time ago, still holding up today. But obviously, you can understand why there would be concerns, guys.
Sure. All right, Sam Brock, thank you very much.
The manhunt continues in New Orleans for 7 inmates who took part in a brazen jailbreak on Friday. Officials say the group escaped by crawling through a hole that was cut out behind a toilet. Above the hole, written on the wall, were the words, "Too easy, LOL," with the word "too" notably spelled wrong. 10 inmates initially broke out, with 3 of them caught pretty quickly. The reward for capturing those still on the run is now up to $20,000 per inmate. Investigators think they had help from jail staff members on the inside. In fact, 3 of those employees have now been put on leave. The governor is calling for a full audit of the jail, calling the escape unacceptable.
Well, and some welcome news for New York area commuters. Trains in New Jersey will resume service tomorrow, ending the first strike at New Jersey Transit in over 40 years. Transit officials and the locomotive union reached a tentative agreement to boost hourly pay at the country's 3rd largest transit system after 450 members walked off the job Friday. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy says the trains will resume their regular schedules on Tuesday because it takes at least a day to get the tracks and rail cars ready to go.
Good news.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.